Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here. We're back with our weekly Q&A videos. This is for the week of September. Oh no, not for the week of. This is season 9. I saw the S9 and I was like September 9, and then I was going to say 2018.
What are you?
September 9th, 2018. Season 9, episode 18.
It's actually May the 10th today as we're filming this. Yeah.
And hopefully as it's being uploaded.
Yeah.
As long as everything goes to plan. Yeah. So this exists in two mediums. You can watch this on YouTube with some accompanying video that we don't talk about directly, but you can just have in the background that sometimes has some interesting stuff going on.
What's funny to me is you are the Latin scholar, and I expected you to, like you said, mediums, right? Yeah. I think that's totally legitimate English, but as a Latin scholar, would have thought you'd say media.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that as a Latin scholar, there's different stuff I know that is technically accurate, that is practically useless and meaningfully in our day-to-day, right? Like one of the things I think I've talked with you about it, this is one of like those really sort of basic Latin facts when you're learning how to pronounce words and how the Latin alphabet works when you're actually learning Latin, is Julius Caesar was not the name. And I've told you this before. I think I mentioned
Julius Kaiser?
It's not Julius, it's Julius.
Julius.
Yeah, because there's no J's. There's no J's, it's an I.
Right.
It's IUI for Julius. Or no.
IUL?
IUL, yeah. And C's are always pronounced hard C's. So there's no Caesar, it's Kaiser. Yeah. So it's Julius Kaiser. And so, but the thing is, I would never go around referring to Julius Caesar as Julius Kaiser.
So was that like a phonetic pronunciation? Because there's that diphthong. The AE is a diphthong, and that in common English, they reduce that to E a lot of times, right? Where it's the combination. Because Caesar's spelled C-A-E-S-A-R-E-R?
Yeah.
A-R.
Oh, so you're saying that it was, to make it phonetic, it was Kai?
C. So they pronounce. That's why people pronounce it Caesar, because it's like pediatrics.
Yeah.
It's spelled classically P-A-E-D instead of P-E-D. Yeah. And they reduce it to P-E, and it's pronounced P. So, like, if it was just Caesar, they wouldn't have, like in the regular English pronunciation, C-A would still be Ka.
Yeah.
But they started doing that, and I wonder if that's why.
I don't know, maybe. But yeah, okay. So, but anyways, if I walked around going, oh, it's actually Julius Caesar, it's just a conversation with everybody. And it's not that comes up that often, right? It's not that I'm saying the words Julius Caesar often. But whenever I did, like 99% of the time, I don't really want to have a conversation about...
Right. You don't want to bring attention to yourself either. Yeah.
Or, like, it's not Cerberus, right? It's Kerberos.
Yeah, the dog.
Yeah, the three-headed dog of the underworld. But not like none of these things are like helpful for me to bring into my real life. So yeah, mediums.
To me, I guess medium and media is one of those words that are actually common enough in usage that it's not as striking. Like data and datum.
So how data is plural. Yeah, I've taken some data analysis classes, and the using data as plural and having to go like these data and like this datum, it's very uncomfortable. I find it very awkward. I know it's technically correct.
Jinx.
And so there's being technically correct in English, and that's one of the interesting things too about language. I mean, we're not even into any questions yet, but
I think this actually ties into the first question in a way. But I'll tell you when we get to it. The first question.
Okay. But I'm using air quotes here, whatever is technically correct, right, is a really sort of flexible thing. And there's we have a lot of rules for grammar and pronunciation that have been made technical and formal and what is supposed to be some objectively correct way of doing things as if that exists. And a lot of the rules are arbitrary, decided on by relatively few people at sort of a random point that's probably not as far back in our language's history as you think it is. And how you use language and understand language best is the correct way to use that language.
So it's interesting too when you say that it's been that the rules have sort of been established relatively late. I remember reading, my mind was a little bit blown like years ago when I realized that there were so many different spellings. And up until they published the first, was it Webster's? That English actually accepted, like it didn't matter how you spelled stuff because as long as it was, people could figure out what it was still good. And it was that it's the living languages where the dictionaries are more descriptive than prescriptive. And you're looking at dead languages like Latin, where it really is prescriptive because that moment in time has passed. It's no longer...
nothing's changing about it anymore.
Right. Because nobody's using it enough. And I guess if at some point, I don't know if there's ever, in history that a language gets revived. If it did get revived, then I guess it would potentially, the rules might potentially change. But it's because it's been dead for so many years and fallen out of usage. And you can have those rules and be so established.
I guess the other one example of things that have a very specific set of rules and very little flexibility tends to be conlangs, right? Constructed languages.
Okay, right.
Like Esperanto.
Right.
Right?
That's the most famous one.
That's I think the most famous one. Yeah, there's a lot of them. There's a YouTuber named Jan Museli, spelled Janmisali, I believe. Who does some interesting conlang videos that get a little... They're very in-depth and technical. He does a variety of stuff, and I watch a lot of his other stuff, and he does conlang stuff, and I try to get into it, and it's like a little too even deep into it for me.
Right.
But there's a lot of them, and those tend to have very formal rules because, somebody invented them. Right. Somebody made them up. And so there's sort of like one person who is the official steward of all the rules for that language. But yeah, anyways, we have our first question of the week.
Right. And I feel like that this particular questioner has been making a lot of interesting contributions by asking interesting questions.
So this is Corncom, and they say, so I asked a similar question before about how you decide who to promote to Elite 7 and why you don't use Elite 10, but there's this other Injustice YouTuber who made this build where you use an Elite 10 and 2 low-level Elite, for example, Elite 2. What are your thoughts on that? I ask because I often use that so I can spread out my teams to get through more fights, as ads don't work for me to get energy, but disconnecting from the internet, then using the infinite energy glitch is a fast way so I don't have to wait for my guys to recharge in multiplayer. But what do you think about that? And so, I'll answer the question. Here's one thing that's actually interesting just for what we're talking about. If we want to talk about what's technically correct, this commenter used EG here, right?
E.G. gratis.
Yeah. But the important part is that technically, the way that they've done it, they did E.G. space Elite 2, capital E, I. That's wrong.
Why?
There needs to be a comma after the second dot.
Oh, does there?
Because the EG, and so
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. And it was very unnatural, but as people might know, I'm a university student, recently graduated, but up until...
That's connected to unnatural?
Just now. No, but for learning EG. So there's EG and IE.
Id est.
And so I've had to write a decent number of papers or other pieces of writing for submission in my university career. And you have to use what's called APA formatting.
Right.
And that is sort of proper academic formatting.
What does the APA stand for?
I think it's American Psychological Association.
Okay. That's funny.
It's one of the standard,
that it's this American Psycho, like that their standard matters, because I would have thought like a journalism standard would have been more important.
There's APA, there's MLA, which is I don't remember what they all stand for. But there's APA, MLA, Chicago
style. Chicago would be journalism, I think, right? Yeah.
And so a lot of science writing uses APA. It might not stand for the American Psychological Association. That might just be an APA that I know. But I think that's what it stands for.
No, but that's only APA.
No. But anyways, the important part is that there is a strict way of doing stuff. And so one of the things, and I don't really write in this naturally, and I can kind of force myself. Yeah. So like a couple of things. One of the things is that every time you use brackets, if you're writing in APA, you have to say EG or IE. You can't just have brackets with content in them. There needs to be something sort of...
right, because it's conversational. Because if you use it like that, it becomes less formal.
Yeah,
it's interstitial. It's an interstitial kind of comment. I guess. What do you use? M dash instead?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but yeah. So the other thing is that when you do EG or IE, there has to be a comma after that because the period is indicating that you're using a short form. So the dot after the G.
So it's like, for example, comma.
Yeah, for example, comma. Yeah.
Right.
So you have to use a comma because the period, that punctuation doesn't do that.
That's totally not where I thought you were going, but sorry, go ahead, finish.
And so technically, this comment is wrong. Right? In the way that they've written it out. But practically, I hate using the comma.
It feels wrong. Like, it feels unnatural. Like, if you... has it been used enough that it becomes a new descriptive way to use it? Like, this is how it's used. It's commonly accepted.
That's how you're supposed to do it. And so the thing is that I'll make a point. So now it's natural enough that I do it. When I say EG or IE, because I write way more for school than I am writing brackets with EG or IE in them for my own personal life.
Right.
But when I'm doing something that's not for school, I will specifically go and make it wrong in a way that I know is wrong on purpose because it looks nicer to me and it feels better.
Right.
So I'm used to it. But
so you know where I thought you were going with this? Because the more common mistake is to use EG and IE interchangeably and sort of divorced from the actual meaning of it.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, that's not entirely wrong because it is an example because there's other low elites. Elite 1, Elite 3 are still considered low. Yeah. Elite 4 is middle, I think.
Yeah, well, this is specifically an example. Like, you could be Elite 2. Maybe there's a different team where they're a different elite. Right? This could totally be right. Yeah, no. And so I'm not dunking on this comment at all. I hope that's very clear because that's actually exactly how I would do it if I was writing a YouTube comment. Even if I accidentally, just in the back of my mind, I might go back and delete that comma because I kind of... I don't know. I have something against it. It feels wrong to me. Yeah. But so that's... which is related because we're just talking about things that are technically right, but practically I don't really want to talk about them most of the time because I don't want it to be a whole thing. So that's something that's technically wrong, but practically I could not care less about. Right. But anyways, the actual question itself, right? Yeah. Using, there's a YouTuber, and they haven't mentioned the name of the YouTuber.
Skopos. Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe there's a certain etiquette involved in terms of, like, politeness to not, but see, so here's the thing. I mean, we're not in conflict with Skopos.
We're not competing with him, yeah.
Yeah, we're not competing with him. He's got a totally different audience. His channel is growing, ours is stagnating, and that's okay. Yeah. He's obviously willing to put in a lot more time. He's put in a lot of thought in his videos.
Doing good stuff.
I absolutely think so. And he reached out to us at one point for the possibility of, maybe doing collaboration. We just never found the time to do it. But I think, again, absolutely excellent stuff. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that this is the person who's been successfully doing what I'd say are, in our vernacular, is unbalanced teams. Mm-hmm. Where there's clearly one character that is way better than the other ones. And if you lose that character for whatever reason, like just bad luck, then your team is kind of done. Yeah. Yeah.
And clearly, obviously somebody's making it work, right? So clearly this is a matter of personal opinion. Yeah. But you come to us and asked us for a personal opinion.
Yeah. But I think actually, so here's the thing, I've thought about it a little bit. I think there's a bunch of different things that play into this. Earlier on in the history of Injustice, I think the matchmaking was maybe subtly different. And that if you had an unbalanced team, there were different ways that the AI would play that would make it harder and more likely that you would lose. So that there was a better chance that you would end up not finishing your ladder and not getting the bonus, which is a huge cost when you're farming. And the second thing is, I think having an unbalanced team is absolutely 100% the best thing to do for farming. You can get through fights quickly because you maintain one character that's just way better than the other characters. You have a really good chance of just getting through them much faster.
Of really motoring, yeah.
Right.
As long as that character can handle all the different potential trap teams that you'd run into. Right. That would slow you down or potentially make you lose.
Right. And I guess that totally makes sense if your priority is farming and getting stuff. Yeah. To me, the answer to this, for why we still do what we do, is it ties into a question I think we might have even answered last week, where it said, I think somebody asked us, how do you keep doing what you do? Yeah. How are you still interested in it? And to me, a big part of it is figuring out interesting teams.
Yeah. And you've got more flexibility to mix and match when everybody's at the same level.
Exactly. So you're not... I mean, with a few exceptions, like maybe, I want to say, I was going to say Apocalypse, but it's not Apocalypse, it's Darkseid. Mm-hmm. Apocalypse is the Marvel character. Like, they feel like aesthetically, they're very similar. Maybe were they both Jack Kirby characters? It feels like, or maybe one was a rip-off of one. But I think Darkseid was a Jack Kirby. Anyways, all right, so that, with a few exceptions, you actually benefit more from, because the matchmaking, I think, used to match against your highest character, and now it seems like it's more against your overall team score. So then you spend more time before it gets to levels where maybe the other team, each of the character outclasses yours. Yeah. And so actually, in the old days, there was nothing to do but promote.
Yeah.
And so it's because you can't pull back your characters. It means that for a lot of collections for older players, everybody's up to Elite 5 to start. And then when Elite 7 came along, that was sort of the goal, to bump them all up. And then when there was just more things to do and more prizes to get, then being able to farm faster became a higher priority.
Yeah.
I think it would be harder to come up with interesting ideas for teams if we didn't have them all in similar sort of... there's a word for it that's probably not standard, like a threat level, which they use in Injustice 2, but it's not really used at all. And it's sort of an abstract idea because we don't know how it's calculated. But, you know, like the character itself, the passive, maybe the attack and health, to decide how powerful your team is, how matchmaking will decide what to match you up against.
For sure. So yeah, so that's the sort of long answer, and which is to say the short answer, which is what we said at the top, right? Like, if it works for you, then it's good.
Yeah.
If you're not losing very often or at all, ideally losing very little or not at all, and you are getting through it, you know, and it's pretty good, pretty speedy in terms of how long you expect a fight to be, then yeah, it's totally fine.
Yeah, I think maybe part of what plays into it is the less you need recharges, the less important it is to play unbalanced teams. Because there is that advantage, right? Because if you're unbalanced teams, you're just sticking your main guy, you're only recharging the main guy, and then you're putting in junk. You can put in bronze characters that you wouldn't otherwise be using in multiplayer.
Yeah.
Or guys that you just don't like to play, and whose passives are no good. Then, yeah, your priority is to try to get as many teams as you can while using the fewest number of recharges. But I guess the other thing is, too, I guess it depends on the team, because there's certain sort of classic teams. To me, I would not want to play a Flashpoint team where it was unbalanced, except maybe let Aquaman be low, only because he doesn't come into it much. I mean, the main guy is Deathstroke. The backup is Batman. Can you?
I wonder if the cat is audible. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder because
he clearly has something he wants to say.
If he's not, just for the benefit of those people who are not in this room and can't hear it, he's meowing at us from outside this room. He's not scratching the door, which is usually a signal to say, "Please open the door." He does that for every other door in the house. Please open this door, scratching at it.
Yeah.
But did you really want told me that cats in the wild tend not to meow when they get past like infancy, like when they're no longer like babies or young kittens?
I did tell you that, or I don't know if I told you that or you told me that. I know we both know it. I don't necessarily have a source on that information, as you can tell by the fact that I don't know if I learned it somewhere else and then told you, or if you told me. So yeah, I have heard that. I should say I've heard that.
Because the related thing that I've heard is that animals that become like certain kinds of animals that become domesticated, end up maintaining a more sort of juvenile appearance. So that domesticated cats, as opposed to wild cats, tend to have, I don't know, like they tend to look younger. They have a younger kind of face. And that was interesting to me too, because it didn't occur to me until I thought about it. Like, like wild cats. Yeah. They do look a little different.
They look a little more severe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting, right?
It is very interesting.
I don't know if it's based in reality or whether it's one of those things that when you're suggestible, so when people say it, you think, oh yeah, that's kind of that seems kind of true.
Yeah. Okay. So, getting back on topic, so you're talking about how the less you need recharges, right? The less it matters.
Right, because if you're just going to play your few teams, like your few really good teams, then, prioritizing one really good guy to team up with whatever dregs you've got sitting around, right? You don't need a lot of recharge for that.
Yeah.
But I guess the other thing, too, is that this is part of what makes it interesting. If we were really focused only on farming and getting stuff, which we're not anymore because we've got everything that we want, then it probably makes a lot of sense, right? To make the most of your playing time, to get to where you want to be, to get all the gears. Because part of playing around is having all those options. For us, we have the gears. Our options are team composition now.
Yeah.
And the interesting things right now what you're watching is a team composition, if we're doing this right, with static. Where static, we mentioned in last week's recap, has such low stats, and his passive is not that great. Mm-hmm. What really makes him is that he stuns consistently every time. And it's amazing how good he can be when you team him with Rebirth Raven. And my favorite is when Killing Joke Joker is in the first slot. Hopefully what I'll do is I'll put some footage up there. Killing Joke Joker is the first slot. Mm-hmm. You know what I do? I don't even care. I just lay into him. And then I get Raven to steal 3 bars of power as soon as the next guy tags in. I know, as long as they don't have Astro Harness, that's like the sweetest thing to do. Mm-hmm. I love that when they do all the work to get power, and then you just take it from them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I do want to do a multiplayer video with this loadout or this team composition again because it really is kind of fun and interesting, and it's got a really great counter against Astro Harness. Mm-hmm. Because once the first invulnerability is gone when they tag in, and as long as you can stun with static without triggering their second, so this is actually more effective on stronger characters. You trigger the second, you stun them before triggering their second invulnerability.
Yeah.
If you tag in Raven the way we've got her set up, the first hit of her special one against a tag or a stunned opponent will guaranteed be enough to take away all their health. And the only person that doesn't knock out is somebody who's got a revive. Mm. And the second hit is going to take them out with that as long as it doesn't trigger their second invulnerability. It's amazing. Like, it's just such a sweet, sweet loadout.
For sure. Yeah. So there we go. And in the sake of getting through maybe at least one more question, this one comes from Mom Spaghetti, and they say, Static is amazing with LexCorp gear, actually. It is self-defeating because of his passive of power drain immunity becomes redundant. However, the damage drain doesn't cancel out because of this. He still gains power the same as any other character. As a result, Static becomes really good at getting power where power drain attacks give you even further power than normal, or with Lex Luthor specifically even, you can achieve Static's passive, stop blocking, and eat the power drain for the majority of your power to restore. Then obviously just heal yourself up because it's LexCorp. When against Lex Luthor specifically, which is common in Survivor but not so common in multiplayer, you can block the first hit to gain power, then eat the power drain to have over 2 full bars of power from that. I like to use Static on Survivor and gear him as I described for rounds that allow Special 2 and gear my teammates around stun so that he can still be useful when Special 2 is disabled.
Yeah. No, absolutely correct. You know what? When I saw this comment, I decided to test it, and absolutely with the 2 LexCorp gears, even though he's not power drained, he will get the reverse power drain. It's like how some characters that are supposed to be power drain immune, if you tag in with LexCorp gear, if you tag in Rebirth Raven, you don't drain their power, but she still gets it.
Yeah.
But on a character like, say, Lobo, you can't steal the power.
Yeah.
And against, I think, Static, too, you can't steal his power. Mm-hmm. But, and I'm not even sure of whether this was something that used to happen. Like, this is the way it's always been. I feel like it wasn't always, because they've made sort of minor adjustments. And I remember at one point thinking, I can't do that. And I don't know whether it was based on just theory. Usually it's not. Or whether because I tried it and it seemed it was not working.
That's what's called a source monitoring error, where it was earlier when you asked if I was the one who told you, and I said yes, confidently, and then I said, wait a second, actually, I have no clue. Yeah. It's when you know information, but you don't know where you learned it from.
Yeah. I think the problem with using 2 LexCorp gears is if you want him as a secondary character, that's okay. If you want him as your main damage dealer, you need to face somebody who's going to power drain you. And I think Mom Spaghetti's absolutely right that the power drain doesn't happen consistently nearly enough in multiplayer. Like, for single player offline, you totally can know who you're going to be facing. So you can plan for it, right? That if they power drain you, you get the advantage. But on multiplayer, I think I like our current loadout now because it lets Static be the star of the team. And even if... So let's say he wasn't the star and he was a secondary character and you were using him for stun only. Using 2 LexCorp gears limits your ability to do anything else with him. And you still need to use that 3rd slot for some power generation, which could have been better used on your specialist sort of main character on your team, which makes the team composition so much more difficult. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so let's say you want to make him 2 LexCorp gears, but you want him to be able to stun when he comes in. So you give him Razzle Ghouls or you give him Tantu Totem. But you'll want to actually do that with your main damage dealer. You want Tantu Totem on your main damage dealer, not on Static.
Yeah.
And then, you know what I mean? Like, it's that push and pull, because then you potentially by making Static a better support character, you make your main character worse.
Yeah.
I just...
It's a tough balance.
Well, yeah, and this is just so much more fun. Like, when you... Like, it's incredible. Even though his stats are relatively low, and on this team, he's actually lower than Rebirth Raven. He's actually... He does so much as your main damage dealer. And Raven makes a super backup because she works defensively.
Yeah.
And, see, so here's the thing with Static, right? I think I might have touched on this before. Do you make him block better so that when he gets hit with a special, he can survive it and have the power? Or do you make him get more power so he can stun better? I think this Mohammed Albshaiti makes the same point that we do, that it's you give up on his passive, but his passive isn't even his best thing.
Yeah.
His best thing is that he stuns every time on special 1. Unless they can't be stunned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So there we go. I think we can do maybe one more set of related questions, and we get this one every once in a while.
Yeah.
Or some variation of it. These both come from John Allen. And they say, hey, I love the content with great information about the game. I left a comment on the last video. I just want to know if there is any other way of getting better gear/credits other than luck from Survivor and grinding Bonus Battle 6. I feel like I'm missing something. And then in the other comment, how do you guys have millions of credits? I'm currently playing but don't know how to get good gear other than being insanely lucky in Survival and then don't have many credits to be upgrading them to max. What am I missing? And so this is one of those interesting things. And for us, the short answer is there was glitches at one point, right? Where you could rack up a ton of credits. And so we did that. And that will, for stuff like gear, right? Yeah. That's really all it is. It's money and time and playing.
There used to be another glitch that might be so far away that you forgot about it, was that you could get multiple multiplayer season rewards over and over again. True. And the multiplayer season rewards included gears.
That could give you purple shards for your upgrade.
Yeah, so if you got the sort of the premium prize, but even if you've got the secondary prize, that's still a source of other shards, and so you could just and you get money too. So it was a great way to promote your gear. And I think there's something implied in this that's not really stated when you talk about grinding Bonus Battle 6. You're talking about Gear Locker.
Yeah.
And the Gear Locker, I think with a few exceptions... So here's the thing. Survivor gears, I think there's probably 2 that are really... Maybe even 1 that's really crucial.
Mm-hmm.
League of Assassins knives. And that's one of the chase ones from the League of Assassins set. And Fourth World Mace, when an Ares nuke loadout was really important.
Mm-hmm.
Not so important now, I think, given how other characters do a really good job that don't have to be on special too.
Yeah.
But out of the Survivor gears, that's the only one that matters. It's a rare drop. I wouldn't even, if your focus is on gears, and it should be, I wouldn't even go for that. The multiplayer, there's probably, I want to say, 2 gears that are absolutely essential, and lots of other gears that are good. And we mention this in the recap every week, but when there's a good one. But I think Cantu Totem, Master's Death Cart, and maybe some of the power generating gears like Heart of Darkness, Ibis Stick.
Yeah.
Other gears are great to have,
but they're a lot more interchangeable.
Yeah. So
whatever you got that's good is usually good.
Yeah. So I think probably the most important thing would be to grind for credits and get as many of the Gear Locker gears as possible, and max them all out, all of them. And you say, well, but what if I don't use the bad gears or the low star gears? One, some low star gears are really good early on.
Yeah.
And 2, if you don't know this already, when you max out gears,
they shatter for more.
Yeah, the extra copies, you'll get more gears back. So the investment, I think, is that if you... And here's the thing, the lower gears, the lower star gears, you get them more often in the Gear Locker. So
and they're cheaper to upgrade.
Yes. So it pays off, I think. It feels like, I want to say somewhere around like 5 or 6 when you have a chance to max them out. And the shards that you spend maxing out the 1.5 star gears will pay back after shattering like 6 copies of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that math, but...
I think for the shards at least, but maybe not. I mean, the money is a whole separate issue, but if you're grinding Bonus Battle 6 to get money for the Gear Locker, then that's...
Yeah.
You're spending the credits.
So it's just upgrade what you can, and then, upgrade everything. Yeah, and so you're not really missing much, right? That's like the one thing that you could be doing to maybe make your experience a little more efficient. And the other thing, if you really want to max out efficiency, what you do is you open a bunch of gear lockers, and then you wait until you have a bunch of copies of one. Yeah. You figure out whichever thing you have the most copies of, and then you shatter other stuff to just barely hit the threshold to maximum upgrade that single thing. Right. And then you shatter all the extra copies of that, and then use that to do, and you sort of keep like the stuff that you have the most copies of at first. Yeah. And sometimes and upgrade that stuff first.
Sometimes you have to prioritize different colors of shards that come out of it, and then you have to sort of be a little bit more careful. But I think that's a great strategy to start with, and that's, you're going to be, at some point, everybody is going to be moaning about one color shard being so much harder. Yeah. But then when you need it, that's when you focus on the next gear that will sort out the balance.
Yeah. So that's something, but that also requires you to just sit on stuff. And so maybe you want to just upgrade it now and, have the best gear that you can for the time. So there's no real secret. There's stuff to think about. There's stuff to consider. But what you're seeing is us having played a lot, and then at different points us having access to glitches that have let us skip some of that sort of grinding.
And one other suggestion is don't max something out to 10 until, promote them or whatever, fuse them so that they get the extra ability. Leave it at 8, maybe even 7, but don't go higher than 8 until you're ready to do everything. Yeah. Because that last little bit costs the most, and it offers an equal amount of incremental benefit. Yeah. Like, it just gets more and more expensive, and you're not getting that much more out of it. Spend it on other gears. Use those shards more efficiently. And when you get towards the end game, you're going to have nothing to spend it on. We got thousands of shards now. Hundreds of extra copies of gears. Nothing to do with it. So this is the interesting thing, too. At one point, people were shattering them all the time, and there was no differential in the shards you get back. So people would shatter them, and you'd get nothing more than you would if they were promoted or whatever. Yeah. And by the time we started shattering more of them, they'd actually change. It's the same way they changed the mechanism for promoting the metal characters.
Where they made it so that there was less copies.
Yeah, it used to cost like 40-something copies to get them to Elite 7, and now it costs, I think, 25 copies to get them to Elite 7. So sometimes it's worth waiting. Very rarely has it gotten worse to like the sort of the in-game currency. Yeah. And a lot of times it's gotten better. I mean,
the only times it's gotten worse is when the packs turned off being purchasable with in-game currency.
That was the only time. You're right. Yeah. Absolutely right.
So there we go. And I think that just about does it for this week. This seems like a good time to end it off. We answered some good questions. Hopefully that was interesting or worthwhile listening to for people. I guess that's always the goal.
Now you're just stating it explicitly.
Yeah. But to finish up, we have some folks we'd like to say some stuff about. So I'd like to give a shout out to Eliza Caton. She doesn't have a nickname. She never has. I don't know what you're talking about. And this shout out is brought to you by Eliza. And I'd also like to give a huge thank you to all the wonderful folks who support us on Patreon.
That would be Bombo Ben, Consul Peasant, and Edwoon at the top tier last word. Sinemac and Mohammed Albshaiti at the Your Message Here tier. Shawn Farrell, Daniel Simonson, Aaron Maule, Michael DeVries, Brandon C., Irvin Ruiz, Eddydoo, and Hoshi 127 at the credited level. And Chris Wolf, Scarlet Danny, Awesome Gamer 241, Pavu RS, Gavin Malott, and Isfar E at the gratitude level.
Thank you so much for your support, and thanks so much to all of you for watching or listening. We'll see you next time. Komoda.